For pre-pagent contracts, Mr. Daniels made a written offer to purchase a home through BrokerStar. However, Daniels died in a car accident before BrokerStar could notify him of a qualified, signed acceptance by the seller. Which of the following statements is most correct? What is the death of Daniels constituted a termination of the offer? In the event that a buyer dies prior to any notification of the acceptance, the offer is terminated. Which of the following is not a necessary element in the formation of a contract? What is performance? The four essentials of a valid contract are meeting of the minds, capable parties, lawful object and consideration. Performance of the contract happens after a valid contract is already formed. Andrew has a holographic will. Holographic wills cannot be. What is signed with an X? Since a holographic will is handwritten, it is assumed that the person is capable of signing his, her full name. Note: meeting of the minds is simply another term used for offer and acceptance. Which of the following is necessary for a real property conditional installment sales contract to be valid? What is consideration, offer and acceptance, lawful object, competent parties, legally sufficient writing? The four legal essentials in any contract are: 1. Consideration, 2. An offer and acceptance, that is, a meeting of the minds, 3. A lawful object, and 4. Competent parties. Some contracts, like a land contract, a type of conditional installment sales contract, require writing as well. Which of the following is necessary for a real property conditional installment sales contract to be valid? What is consideration, offer and acceptance, lawful object, competent parties, legally sufficient writing? The four legal essentials in any contract are: 1. Consideration, 2. An offer and acceptance, that is, a meeting of the minds, 3. A lawful object, and 4. Competent parties. Some contracts, like a land contract, a type of conditional installment sales contract, require writing as well. Which of the following is not a necessary element in the formation of a contract? What is performance? The four essentials of a valid contract are meeting of the minds, capable parties, lawful object and consideration. Performance of the contract happens after a valid contract is already formed. Note: meeting of the minds is simply another term used for offer and acceptance. Stephen signs a real estate contract. Most real estate contracts contain pre-printed clauses or spaces for information to be added in writing. In the interpretation of Stephen's contracts, what is the written parts take precedence over the pre-printed parts? The pre-printed parts are often generic so that they can apply to many different situations, but anything handwritten is specific to a particular transaction. If there is a conflict between the written and pre-printed parts of a contract, handwritten parts are given priority over pre-printed parts. Which of the following is not a necessary element in the formation of a contract? What is not performance? The four essentials of a valid contract are meeting of the minds, capable parties, lawful object and consideration. Performance of the contract happens after a valid contract is already formed. Note: meeting of the minds is simply another term used for offer and acceptance. The effective date of a real estate purchase contract is a date that, what is the acceptance is communicated to all parties. Mutual agreement, or offer and acceptance, is actually a three-step process: offer, acceptance and communication of the acceptance back to the offeror. 4 months ago, a seller entered into a legally binding written contract to sell his property. Later, the seller refused to complete the transaction since he felt the value of the property would increase in the near future. Under these circumstances, the statute of limitations could affect the rights of the buyer to prevail in a civil action due to a breach of the written contract within. What is 4 years? A right arising out of a written contract must be pursued in court within 4 years of the default, breach. According to the statute of limitations, broker Lou took a listing on commercial acreage and also received the right to purchase the property within 30 days. On the 28th day of the listing, the broker decided to buy the property. Before buying the property, he must obtain written consent from the owner which acknowledges any profit or anticipated profit. All of the other answers are correct. Disclose any outstanding offers. Give the owner any material information. What is all of the other answers are correct? Option on a listing. If a broker wants to exercise an option that he has on a property on which he also has a listing, he must disclose to the seller any offers and obtain the written consent of the seller. Broker Pam Wilson sold Matt Cohen a small starter home. During the closing process it was discovered that Matt was not 19 as he claimed, but a 17-year-old unemancipated minor. What is the status of the contract? What is the contract is void? In California, minors are not allowed to enter into contracts for real property per California Family Code Section 6701, making this contract void. Minors can enter into some other contracts, however, and those contracts can be voided by the minor because of lack of sufficient age. In those cases, the contract is voidable by the minor but not by the other party. A parcel of vacant land is listed for $100,000, requiring 20% down with the seller to carry back the balance. The broker brings in a full-priced cash offer, but the owner refuses. The broker is entitled to what is nothing. Since the offer does not meet the exact terms of the listing, the broker is not entitled to any commission. In this case, the seller could be looking forward to the interest that would be earned from seller financing 80% of the purchase price. Henry made an offer to purchase real property. However, he died of a heart attack before the listing broker could notify him of an unqualified, signed acceptance by the seller. Based on these facts, which of the following is true? What is the death of Henry constituted a revocation of the offer? In the event that a buyer dies prior to any acceptance by the seller, the offer is terminated. A valid contract requires offer and acceptance, which actually consists of three parts: offer, acceptance, and communication of the acceptance. Since Henry died before acceptance had been communicated, there was never a valid contract. Where in a real estate listing are the seller's exact terms and conditions? What is contracts? The terms of sale contain the seller's exact terms and conditions. Mr. Seddon, an owner of a property, enters into an exclusive listing with broker Sparks. 1 week later, broker Sparks brings in a full price offer, but Mr. Seddon refuses the offer. Seeking an action of specific performance would be an option for what is neither the buyer nor broker Sparks. Specific performance is an action brought in a court of equity to compel a party to carry out the terms of a contract, and in this case there was never a contract between the buyer and seller since the offer was refused. Specific performance is not used to specifically enforce a contract to perform personal services, such as a broker's agreement to fine a buyer. In regards to real estate, suits for specific performance might be filed by a buyer wishing to force a seller to follow through with a purchase agreement. In this case, broker Sparks would most likely sue for monetary damages equal to the commission that would have been earned had Mr. Seddon accepted the offer. Albert is a tenant and agrees to perform certain repairs for Bob, who is the owner. Despite repeated promises, Albert fails to perform the repairs. Bob then writes up a contract, and compels Albert to sign it by threatening to evict him if he does not. Such a contract would be what is voidable. Examples of voidable contracts include contracts signed under duress, or contracts entered into with threat or menace.